about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Bork. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Let me clear my throat before I start. Hopefully that will be good enough. All right, here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Thursday, the 16th day of March 2017. If you have not taken a free trial with us, just go to the homepage here at CFRN.net and scroll down where it says free 5-day trial and click on that. Then go down to where it says start free trial and click on that. And then fill out this little form. Once you fill out this little form, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. Okay, that's how we know you took the trial. That confirmation link is the double opt-in. Keeps us from spamming anyone, and we don't want to be accused of that. All right, the spreadsheet. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you're going to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down here at the bottom. Okay, it's right down below where all the typing is, most recent stuff. Today, on the 16th day of March 2017, made 4 ticks in the euro, made 3 ticks in crude, 4 ticks in gold, and 3 ticks on the NQ. That got us all the way up to $110 a contract. It was just another day that was really slow. I'll go over the stuff. I didn't miss much today, I don't think. Today it took 73 minutes and 7 opportunities to get $200 a contract, and we took a total of 9 today. Okay, so on the month now we're at 1828.75. That's over 12 days, averaging 152 a day. 152 per day. I had to fix all these numbers here because they were using last month's calculations. It was based on the wrong things, so it's fixed now. On the yearly total, 83.73.75. That's over 50 days, averaging 167 a day, averaging 167 per day. Okay, that's the spreadsheet. And again, if you can look at the spreadsheet, you can read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Look at gold setting up a trade right here, a bounce off the BBC. Well, let's just go take a look at what happened with gold today. All right, gold started out, gold and crude, had a lot of pre-market activity. Okay, a lot of pre-market activity. And our first opportunity here on gold was a break even, and our next one was four ticks in profit. This is where we actually got the goal for the day. We got the goal by getting 4 ticks over here on gold and 3 ticks on crude at the same time. And let's see what else we may have missed. Well, we needed a higher swing. We just barely got the higher swing there, but then the cycle changed color, so you had to have a close above the trend line, but it was also a close above the MA1 going right into dynamic resistance that had not been broken. Then the cycle started going down too steep. So there was nothing, after this one, there was nothing that we missed until right here. Right here is a bounce off the BBC. Okay, 1229.0. And that was it for the gold. And this is crude. Okay, this is crude. All right, you can see how choppy it was right through here. Okay, once we finally put in a lower swing, did we finally put in a lower swing? Yeah, right there, there was a momentum, a short trade that went about 4 ticks. We missed that. Our first opportunity to get in was right over here. We got a break even on that one. Missed that one. Break even there, and right here is where we got those 3 aforementioned ticks. Let's see, since then, we had a problem right here. See, the cycle was the wrong color. So we would have had to have drawn a trend line, and the short would have been right there. The problem with that is that this dynamic support was not broken. So you can't short a momentum trade into dynamic support. So you would have had to miss the whole thing. Okay. Over here, this bounce off the BBC right here just recently would have been good for a long trade. All right, so we were +3 on crude today. Did I call that crude? That was the euro the whole time, guys. That was the euro, not crude. Was somebody telling me that? Usually somebody tells me that. Chris, I can send you something else that I'm putting together right now too. I'll put your email on the list. Hang on. There. Okay. It is on the list. All right. Sorry, everything that I was just saying here was about the euro, not about crude. So we got a break even there. We got a break even there, and we got 4 ticks profit right there on the euro. This was actually going on at the same time as the other one. The other 2 trades that I said closed at the same time, the gold and the crude trade. This was also on. I had 3 on at the same time. This one hadn't finished yet. Okay, it had just gotten back to break even. Is the trading session only trading one strategy? Well, the rules for in here are these right here, Chris. Okay, it's either a bounce off the BBC or a close on the other side of the trend line. Either way, you got to be trending, and the cycles got to be in the right place, or it's got to be the right color and in the right place. Okay, that's basically what it comes down to. You hit the cross, the pull away, the pull back, you hit the BBC, you close up. If the cycle's the right color and it's above the green line, you go long. Okay. Like right over here, that's what just happened right here. If we blow this up a little bit, behind your cross, your pull away, it pulled back, it hit the BBC, it closed up, the cycle's the right color and above the green line, so you go long right there. Okay. Not for the stuff that we do in the training room in the morning, Chris. All that is extra stuff. The stuff we do in the morning is just what you see on this screenshot right here. That other stuff, these, is the Tuesday meetings. All right, none of that gets counted on the spreadsheet or in the mornings. Okay. The spreadsheet is just these 2 trades for the last 4 years. Okay, so now we're on crude. Okay, I told you crude had some volatility this morning. Crude and gold, they both got killed this morning. Our first opportunity here on crude was break even. The next one was over here. This is the one that I closed out at the same time as the gold. I got 3 ticks on that one. That put us at +3 on the crude. Let's see. You couldn't do this because it was a momentum trade going right into dynamic support. Then as we closed out the room this morning, it pulled back. I gave a long trade right here. You see again right here, the MA1 crossing the BBC, price pulled away, price pulled back down. Look down here, the cycle is blue, it's above the green line. You would go long on the close right there. Okay. And there was nothing else since then, excluding all those 137s and 164s and all that. You know, for this recap, I don't go over those. Okay. So we're +3 there. Now I made a mistake here on the NQ this morning. I'll explain to you in a minute. Let's see, the NQ was really flat and the ES was horribly flat this morning. We missed this first opportunity right here, and then the NQ and the ES were just horribly flat. Once they finally started to move, we jumped in here. We had an opportunity to get in here, and we got in and we had 6 ticks profit on that one. Then it started moving around again, and on this one here, I had said the level out loud. I think it was 1675. I had said it out loud. Then I turned my head to the other screen and I did something on the other screen. My DOM was messed up. And so I fixed my DOM, and then I saw that I could put the trade on, and I put it on at 1675 because it had pulled back a little bit to 1650. So I dropped it right on at 1675. But then when I looked back to this monitor, I realized that price had already closed up above the MA1, so I should not be putting a trade on. So I took a 3-tick stop out on that one. So that brought me back down to +3. All right, there was one more over here. Toward the end of the room, there was one more right in there, and one there, and one here, during the break. Another one there during the break. And right here during the break. Okay, so there were a couple of spots for the NQ during the break today. We ended with +3 on the NQ after my mistake. You see how flat the ES was? Hey, John. See how flat?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just finishing up my recap here, and then we'll.
All right.
bring
Sorry
back.
about that. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Okay, so the ES was totally flat here for most of the morning, and then it dropped right down to the zone and flattened out down there, and it dropped down below the zone. And I highlighted this one opportunity right here, but I said I don't like trading when it's anywhere near the zone like that because it usually just pulls itself right back into it. So I didn't. Chris, when you become a partner and you remain an active partner, you will get the zones every Monday morning every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. The zones will be in your inbox. Okay. And there's more than just the zones for the ES. There's zones for, I think, 4 different markets, but I only use the ES zones. Anyway, it came back up into the zone. And all right, so that's that. Now let me jump back over here and we'll go through this stuff really quick again. Hang on. Here's this. All right. So on the morning, oops, here we go. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosure stuff down at the bottom. Okay. But on the morning, today we had 4 in the euro, 3 in crude, 4 in gold, 3 in the NQ. So it was a slow day, but we did get the goal for the day. Took us 73 minutes and 7 opportunities to get to the goal, and we took a total of 9 today. So on the month now, 1828.75 over 12 days, averaging 152 per day per contract. Okay, and let's see. Down here we're at 83.73 on the year now. That's averaging 167 per day. That's over 50 days. Okay. Again, if you're going to read this, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosure stuff down at the bottom. And if you have not taken a free trial with us, go to the homepage here at CFRN.net and scroll down to where it says free 5-day trial and click on that. Then where it says start free trial and click on that, and then fill in this little form. It's only 4 slots there. Click submit, and then you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click that confirmation link. Okay, once you do that, then we know you took the trial. Yeah, Chris, I thought I was going to hear from you last night, but there's a partners meeting tonight. So anyone that's thinking about becoming a partner, you need to do it before the partners meeting if you want to get into the partners meeting. Okay, it's tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. All right, that's it. With that, Dwayne, if you're there, you can pull it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, where it is a nice spring day. Okay. Okay. Uh, 7 trades, 73 minutes, $100 contract. Yeah. Why, thank you. It was John. Yep, he was in.
Hello. Hi there. How you do? Am I? Yeah. Sorry, I popped in a bit too early there for a minute. Well, let me take this opportunity to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day for tomorrow. Well, we'll get to that in a minute, but Trump just gave a very nice speech at the St. Patrick's Day luncheon given by Speaker Ryan and Mike Pence. So he really said some nice things about Ireland, which is great. I'm sure that he won a few friends over today. Anyway, and he did pretty well yesterday in Michigan and in Tennessee, although he looked a little bit tired last night. He's kind of been going at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But listen, it's been a phenomenal couple of days here. I'm sorry I couldn't get on yesterday, but if you remember, on Tuesday and Monday, Tuesday, I did emphasize, I said, they deliberately sort of spiked the gold down from the 1207 rally and the silver as well. And I said, be ready to buy any kind of a down spike in both, and be sure to be, I said, look, you got to take a shot at this because it could be a runaway situation, which it's starting to look like it is. And sure enough, I mean, listen, we didn't get 1207, didn't get 2 seconds before the price moved dramatically through it, and it moved up so fast that you really had to be there, where I said to be there or lower to get on this move, because now look, it's pausing a little bit here, and you can't rule out that sometimes they've got a way of getting it back down to test the 1200 for a reset. That might be a bit of a stretch, but it could come back to 1220, or it got to 1223 this morning. It could come back to possibly 1215 or even a bit lower before they really do the big takeoff. Remember, we've got we've got the French elections brewing now. Looks like the Dutch wasn't particularly an issue, but the next thing is, look, the reality of actually breaking the 20 trillion, I think, could be the next big trigger for gold. So I mean, look, to me, it's a buy dip situation now from this breakout. I mean, it's like anything. Once it actually happens and you see the results, you have to ask yourself, why did the market go up yesterday? Why did the market go up? Why did gold go up? Supposedly all these morons out there who keep talking about higher interest rates are bad for markets don't know what they're talking about. Look, a long time ago on this show, I said, this is like 1959. In many, many respects, it's sort of like 1959, 1960, 2.0. In other words, we've had a period of low interest rates, which is what happened after World War II. The interest rates were down at near zero for 13 to 15 years. And right around 1959, 1960, they started to take it, to start going up. Tell me what happened to the market, over the next 10 years, into the 70s. You had one of the biggest bull markets of all time, kicked off by the Kennedy administration and his tax cuts and the moonshot, which basically powered the market. And as I've said before, one of the reasons why the U.S. economy is probably going to take off beyond anybody's expectations is because finally the government, courtesy of Trump and his $1 trillion stimulus and the defense spending, are going to be like the Chinese. They're going to be a significant driver of the U.S. economy. All these cutbacks that we've had since the Clinton years and all through the 2000s have really had a negative impact on the growth of the United States, of being like a drag on the U.S. Economy. And those shackles are now coming off to unleash a new era of growth that's going to be absolutely phenomenal. And at the same time, we're riding a technology wave where breakthroughs are, absolutely awe-inspiring great breakthroughs are likely to happen over the next 10, 15 years of our lives. And I think we're living in the greatest age ever. I mean, there's never been anything like it. And, with the jetpacks, flying bikes, hover bikes, and possibly even flying cars and all kinds of things like that. And more importantly, AI, automation, so, self-driving cars. Right. Well, hypersonic transport is the next big thing. I mean, listen, like anything, when the next generation of aircraft come into being and they're around the corner, being able to fly to Sydney in 4 hours instead of like 24 is going to be a big deal, So and flying across the Atlantic in a couple of hours it's going to just absolutely transform the world. And people will, the current generation of aircraft are going to end up in that desert nearby you, before too long. So they're going to be parked there for eternity as they get mothballed, and the next generation is going to empower a new growth beyond anything we've ever imagined. So and look, these Navy ships get obsolete real fast. They have to bring in new technology, if we didn't have a constantly evolving defense, procurement and driving force behind new ideas and new breakthroughs, we'd still be using 1940 tanks. So the next generation is around the corner, and just the same as we're walking around with supercomputers in our pockets these days, relative to where we were 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's really, it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. And so I think the government, spending force that's going to blend in with the economy and bringing these trillions back from Europe or from overseas and getting that into the economy is going to be, and then along with the tax cuts that are coming, are going to, look, this is kind of what happens every few decades in the U.S. You get a growth spurt where the next generation of millionaires are going to be created. And it's happening before our eyes in China. I mean, who would have ever thought? It's kind of like Russia. That thing about Putin they put out on CNN, back in on Monday night, but back when Putin took power. I mean, I think you and I, we even knew each other back then, but I was sort of saying, to me, the Russian, the end of the Russian. I mean, look, we were all worried in 1991 as to whether the Russians were going to go communist, stay communist, and go back into a horrible period of the Soviets, or whether they were going to break free and become a westernized economy, if you like. And thank God they became a capitalist country. Same as China. China's more capitalist than in almost any other country on earth right now. Who would have ever thought it? But and we've had this 3 years of 3 decades of growth in China, averaging just absolutely phenomenal percentages, and that has created, right now the wealth. There's not more millionaires in China than the U.S., but they're catching up fast. But the actual wealth of those millionaires has already exceeded the wealth of all the millionaires in the U.S., which is really saying something. It really is, yeah. And there's 400 something billionaires in China today, 400 of them. And there's 30 cities in China with populations more than 10 million. 30. Well, yeah, I mean, everything, just the whole economic growth. It's kind of like people who the few Aussies and a few westernized people, actually started living in Japan right after World War II. And, I always remember this, right? My dad used to tell me, the Japanese market was worth 50 in 1950, right? By 1989, it was 40. It was at 40 in 1950. 40 years later, in 1989, it was 40,000. So it went from 40 to 40,000. Okay? Now, the last thing that happened in 1998 was remember the Russian banking crisis, and you had the Asian banking crisis that sort of hit Russia at the same time, and you had the people banging on the banking doors, and you had the lines outside, they had the run on the banks kind of thing. That was the bottom of the Russian market in 1998. It was November 1998, and we made our call right there and then. In fact, we said, no matter what, if you can't put all your money in Russia. This is actually our quote that we wrote in writing to all the world who were listening at the time. If you can't put all your money in Russia, put at least 10% of it in. Okay, that's what we said. And the fact of the matter is, from that day forward, from November 98 to about June 2007, right around the peak of the before the crash. The Russian market went up 100-fold. Went up 100-fold from 1998. It's one of the fastest rises of all time, and that's where all the billionaires came from. 111 billionaires born out of nothing in literally 10 years. Staggering. And obviously, huge amounts of wealth in Russia. Listen, it's not, there's a lot of poverty in Russia, and the GDP per capita is still way, it's terrible. It's way lower than most countries, in spite of its apparent wealth. On the face of it. And listen, just look at the skyline in Moscow. It's phenomenal what's happened. They really made the Moscow skyline actually looks very beautiful these days. Some of the high towers that they put there. And remember, we talked about on this show, or I think it was on the show. I think there's about, I don't know if it's 100 or maybe 400 or 500 new towers are scheduled for construction in London over the next few years. That's going to transform the skyline of London in a way we can't even fathom today. So, this ongoing building boom, and look, with people seeing Dubai, it's just like China. When China took over Hong Kong in 1997, I actually wrote at that time that I thought that the Chinese would Hong Kongize China. They would take the Hong Kong model and replicate it throughout China, and that's exactly what they've done, in a way that's nothing short of staggering, especially, the showpiece of all, which is Shanghai. So, this is the world of the future. And now Saudi Arabia is building a new capital, effectively, or a new mega city, another mega city. And as soon as and look, right, where are we today? We're right on the lows of the dollar. In fact, we're holding right above 100 right now on the dollar. We've lost 2 points on the dollar in 2 days, and as we said last week, the dollar looks like it's ready for a big dip, big fall. All these fellows a few days ago are saying, the Fed's raising rates, the dollar's going to get strong. Wrong. We were right. We said it was going to get weak, and the odds are it's going to get weaker, because the Fed is now saying, look, this is like 2005 all over again. The second rate hike in 2005 was in the first quarter. That was the bottom of gold. The gold took off. I think the third rate hike came in the summer, and by the fall, the gold was up 50% on the year. We went from 425 up to about 600, and then we went to 700. 800, 900,000. It's quite possible the same is going to happen with gold on this run. And to be honest with you, I don't think, John, unlike these, this Obama mafioso and legacy, where they did everything in their power to hold gold down, I don't think Trump could care less, whatever. I think he's going to be happy if gold is 1,500 or 2,000 or 2,500. I don't think he could care less. He owns a lot of gold in his apartment. I'm sure he's going to be happy if the price goes higher, and I don't think he's going to fret about it like everybody has in the past. And this is like, look, 2016, our mantra is very simple. I think 2016 is like 1976. This is the beginning of not necessarily a 4-year gold rise, but more like a 7-year gold rise, because the dollar, according to its cycle that has been very, very prevalent since the 50s, it's had a 7-year up cycle and a 7-year down cycle. That's as sure as the sun's going to rise tomorrow morning. And sure enough, we were a bit late in the day, but we made the highs so far at the end of 2016, the beginning of 2017. We made a nominal new high a couple of days into the new year, and that was it for the dollar. And we're down 3 or 4% already on the year. And if we break the 100 and really start going down more dramatically, which may happen once we go through the 20 trillion debt, or something else happens, and maybe the euro. Look, don't forget the euro economy. I mean, what happened when the Fed was supposedly printing money and doing everything in its power to get the economy moving? The dollar got stronger, right? Well, the Fed has handed the torch over to the Europeans right now, and they're doing the same. So it stands to reason as the European economy starts to recover, which it's doing, some of the fastest growth since 2011 or even 2007, the likelihood of the euro recovering and actually getting stronger, which is bullish for gold, dollar goes down, actually could be on the cards. So and at the end of the day, a weak dollar rather, which is a strong dollar is strangling the world economy. A weak dollar is going to free up the world economy. The rest of the countries are going to get richer vis-a-vis the U.S. That's better for the exports and the trade deficit and everything, all the problems that ail the U.S. Trump's kind of trying to fix. More importantly, if we get back to $100 oil, we're still probably going to have an oil spike in 2020, sometime around 20 to 21, 22, 23. I mean, some of the projections are that we're going to need 110, 120, 130 million barrels a day in the next decade that the world cannot produce today. It's just not possible. So, and we may get, we may not even be able to get to 100 million barrels per day by 2020, which is supposed to be what the demand will be by then. So it's that's just the same way as a strong oil price through the early 2000s caused gold to go higher, and the dollar was in its down cycle from 2002 to 2009. 09 to 16 was a 7-year up cycle. Now 16 to 23 should be a dollar down cycle, and like 1976 to 1980. It looks to me like the next 7 years, are going to be a very strong upcycle for gold, somewhat similar to what happened from 1976 to 1980, where gold went up 8-fold and silver went up 10-fold. And I guarantee you, if you said to somebody who was looking at $103 or $106 an ounce in 1976 and said, gold could be $875 by 1980, they would put you in a loony bin. So, because we've seen that movie before now, people are talking about 5,000 or 8,000 gold, but most of them are taken, are taken with some degree of skepticism or ridicule. But one of these days, when we start breaking through 2,000, then the game's going to change, and those numbers will become more real. And to be honest with you, based on most other assets, gold is becoming, certainly silver is seriously undervalued versus almost every other asset on the face of the earth, and gold is somewhat undervalued based on versus most other assets on the face of the earth. I mean, how can you reconcile a house that was worth $1 million or two 10, 20 years ago being worth 50, 60, 70 million today? It's just absolutely ridiculous. The upper end of the housing market is a total bubble. It's like a tulip boom. It's really it's absolutely insane that some of these upper end housing values. I think you agree with me on that one, Dwayne. Yeah, and I mean, look, it's not a laid down misere. I mean, people like Jennifer Lopez, I think she just took a $10 million loss on a property over in Los Angeles. She had a joint property with her former husband, and I think she sold that property recently, and she definitely took a loss on it. So, there's a lot of risk at the high end of the market. I think it's, that the risk was a bit higher last year. I think it's kind of recovering a bit now with the market going higher again. So, who knows where let's face it, most of the property today around the country, not all of it, but a lot of the properties are making new record highs. Certainly, obviously, California, Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and places like that. Properties are becoming insane. A friend of mine's mother's in real estate in Seattle told me there was a house that she showed yesterday had 60 buyers, 60 people trying to buy it. It was like an auction, you know. Well, that's the thing. That's what's going to power the economy. That's what's going to power the economy. You know, this is the wake up call now because a lot of people sit on their hands. You know, it's the same with stocks. When stocks are low, they don't want to buy them, and then you know that's the time to be buying stocks when stocks are down. And this is why we've been advocates of gold stocks. You know, you got to be buying dips on gold. You got to buy them. You know, I said, look, a couple of days ago, the JNUG was in the 5s, and the Nugget was in the 7s, 7.5. Remember, it's at 9 right now. I mean, that's in 2 days. It's at 9. It's gone from 7.5 to 9, and the Nugget's gone from 5 to 7.5. Just one sec. Sure. It's 9. Yeah, sorry to interrupt there. Sorry, I had to take the call. Yeah. Wow. Well, I think they have to go. They're going to have to be, get advertising to support them, and it's probably the time. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, it's time has come. I guess but it's probably all in all, it's for a good cause, and you got to, you have to give credit to Trump. Um, by the way, speaking of his tax return, he's probably paid more taxes than the last 20 or 30 presidents combined, if not all of them. So I think that destroys the argument of the Dems, 100%. All the things they said about him. I mean, it's just a disgrace. And it's just amazing to me that this guy doesn't get any credit. I mean, when have you ever seen a presidential candidate who's got so many residences? You don't know where he's going to pop up next. And he's able to hold all these, meetings with world leaders in places that are, have a lot of opulence and a lot of presence, even more worthy than some of the federal buildings. So the guy's an extraordinary character. There's no, he's an accomplished. He's highly accomplished. He doesn't. I mean, he ran a flawless campaign. His plane was, on time. There was never a snafu in this entire campaign. Which he raised from nothing in record time. I mean, doesn't get any credit for that. I mean, and they're all saying he can't organize a party in Guinness's brewery. I mean, there couldn't be more opposite than that. It's an old expression in Ireland. There's two of them. He couldn't make his way out of a paper bag or organize a party in Guinness's brewery. You know what I mean? I mean, this is Trump. Trump can get things done very smoothly and without any fuss. Obviously, at the drop of a hat, and he's to not understand where this guy's coming from, and his intellect and his IQ. And I mean, listen, the guy's, I'm very highly confident he's going to win people over. Even his comments in that interview last night, on Tucker, where, he's very cautious, a little bit, but, he's he's a very cautious guy, Trump. I mean, I'm telling you, this guy doesn't do anything without a lot of lawyers checking things, everything he does, because he's managed to stay out of trouble for his entire life, even though he's had all kinds of incoming and lawsuits and everything else. I mean, this guy's taken more incoming than just anybody in history, and he's dealt with it all. And look, I mean, he's obviously thicker skinned than a lot of people think he is, because even he's got a deal where half the country loves him and half the country hates him. It's kind of that simple. But and it's tough to take the hate, but I think he's handling it pretty well, and I think he's he knows he's got his base, and he's going to build that base, and he's probably going to surprise people along the way. In the way he did that. I mean, listen, the Irish Prime Minister called him a few names, and he managed to smooth that over. And I'm sure he's going to have to deal with the same thing tomorrow when he meets with Merkel. But I'm sure he'll smooth that over too. I mean, I think the ultimate look, if they end up having a summit in Slovenia, with Putin, that's probably pretty good neutral ground with an edge for Trump, because his wife is Slovenian. She's going to be mobbed over there. Trump is going to be mobbed. And then I think when he goes to Russia, listen, most people don't understand the Trump mania going on in Russia. And guess where? And in the most unlikely of other places is China. Trump's popularity in China and Russia is almost as good as Putin's. I mean, it's like up in the 80% in both countries. So what does that tell you? I mean, it's extraordinary. And when he goes to Russia or China, it's going to be. I mean, a lot of people are going to start getting the memo, and they're going to start saying, "Wow, you know, he's hated in his own country and he's loved overseas in a way that no other president since JFK has been received that way." You know, so I think that'll be. I really believe the day he sets foot on Russian territory, it's gonna be an event. It's going to be an epic event for all time, and all this nonsense about Russia is going to be forgotten. And I think, you know what, I wouldn't be surprised if Putin stands up beside him and says, "Listen, I'm standing you right here. You can look me in the eye, and I'm going to look you in the eye and tell you this is all baloney. It never happened. I never authorized anything." And one of these days, the leaker, the Democratic leaker, whoever it is, if they're not knocked off ahead of time, which could happen, or if they haven't already been knocked off already, it's going to come forward and say, I blew the whistle on the Hillary campaign. It wasn't the Russians, it was me. How about that? You heard it here first. Yeah, maybe that British ambassador is going to come out of his woodwork again. Maybe he's worried about his health, So, that he supposedly picked up the documents, in a park outside Washington. So, I think the truth's going to come out, and I think the truth is the biggest thing going for Trump. If he's unlike every other president, listen, every single president that's ever been has been caught in a lie or has lied to the American people somewhere along the line, whether it's the Iran-Contra or Obama's notorious lies and all that stuff that he came out with. And I mean, look, I wish if anybody's listening and they can get this information to the Trump campaign or to Fox. How come nobody's talking about this convicted felon who visited the White House 389 times? What the heck was going on? I mean, if they didn't have it in for Trump and they used every trick in the book to derail his campaign, and now they're saying they didn't tap the phones. Listen, they probably had them tapped for years, not months. I mean, listen, the skullduggery that these fellows got up to is just, and all the nonsense, trying to get these celebrities on side at the end of the campaign and doing everything they can to derail Trump. I mean, it's obvious. What they did makes Watergate pale into insignificance. I really believe that. And it should all come out. And all this skullduggery that's going on now, I hope Trump cleans every last one of them out of this place forever, because it's time to clean house from top to bottom and get all these entrenched interests out of the government. And he needs to do it, and I think he will do it. And I hope everybody supports that idea. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, good point. Good point. Good point. Yeah. Yeah. By the way, did you see this video floating around about this young kid, 11-year-old, who's a big Trump fan, and she's sort of saying, I might even run for president in the future, and he said, if the press are not, and this is an 11-year-old saying this, right? I'll send you the video in a minute. No, this is a girl. This is a girl, and she's saying if the press are nicer, in 20 or 30 years, and then she says at the back of her head, never going to happen. I mean, can you imagine an 11-year-old coming up with a line like that? That's really something. She's pretty smart, this kid, and she was ribbing her mother because her mother wanted to vote for Crude, and she said, "Listen, you're not getting the memo. You need to vote for Trump." So. Anyhow, going back to the gold for a minute. Look, you can't rule out a bit of a consolidation here or even a possible reset. But I'd say right now the odds are fairly high that within the next. Oh, you got to watch for later on this evening, around about between 6 and 9 Eastern. If we get a bit of a pullback in the gold and then the gold starts to accelerate higher, you definitely want to get on board. Obviously, your system has caught these moves, I would think, so far to the upside, right? Well, I didn't get a chance to look at the numbers yesterday, but I was thinking that you probably caught the upturn in the well, I'm not sure if you caught yesterday's upturn, but okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, between the two of us, we had it nailed, because if they got your early profit, because I noticed that I think you got long very low towards 1200 the day before. So if they got that, and then they took my advice to buy on that breakout or buy the dip before the breakout at 1207, they pretty much got the run up to 1230 plus. So that was one way or another, we nailed it between us. So. Right, exactly. I remember that. So you're right. So you got a nice pop off that 1202, and like I say, I was pretty. I mean, I said it, I was adamant. I said you've got to be long this. If it goes, you've got to be long. And I said you have to take a shot at it, because this could be the beginning of this is a big liftoff. It's a big liftoff. We're not that far away from making new yearly highs on the gold, and after a little bit of a pullback here, a bit of a consolidation, if we start suddenly heading higher again, you absolutely have to be long gold or some gold stock or something. I'd strongly recommend that. So because this gold could really go a lot higher, could easily go. Look, Bank of America came out and said they think gold will finish $200 higher by the end of this year. That may be a low-end estimate, but the fact that Bank of America is coming out and saying that, not necessarily mean it's definitely going to happen. But usually when the banks start getting the memo and coming out, if another few banks start coming out and saying, the same thing, the odds of gold coming up and closing up this year are going to increase markedly. And it may well be, in most of the time, just the same as, listen, most of the banks, most of the research houses have been underestimating how high this market was going to go. I think you agree with that, right? Most of them are looking for 2,200 on the S&P, 21 to 23 was sort of and where are we today? Where are we now? 20, almost 24. So, we've been to 24 virtually. So they're obviously, almost every analyst on the planet has underestimated how high this market's going to go. And if we start taking 24 and going to 20, I mean, listen, if we get to 25 on the S&P, the odds start becoming strong that we're going to go, up towards 30 or 3,000. So, that getting to 25 is a big deal. If we start exceeding 25, then we got a lot further to go. And right. Right. Now, the world index, by the way, has really taken off in the world index is at a new all-time high today. I mean, that is a big deal. So the world index is actually starting to outperform the U.S. index, which is very impressive. By the way, remember I talked about Insight, INCY, way ages ago. I said that was it was actually the strongest pharmaceutical stock out there, and it's absolutely gone crazy to the upside since. Remember a call on Facebook at 116. I mean, I couldn't have been more bullish on Facebook. I think I was pounding the table on it at the time. After calling the highs at about 130 and having that correction down to the December lows around 116. Look at Facebook today. It's way higher. Hang on a sec. It's up around 138 or something, I think. Anyway, it's up a lot. So just a second. Yeah, 140. How about that? 139, 140. Especially 140. So hitting almost a new high today. I think a new all-time high. By the way, this Amazon looks incredibly bullish. There's a basing on Amazon that I think if we break out on Amazon, it's probably going to go up to. It's probably going to go up to 900, up towards 1,000. 1,000 points. So I think that they may be going to. Don't forget that Jeff Bezos is going to announce his Blue Origin space deal soon. I think that could give Amazon a bit of a boost. They're continuing to make great progress with the web services. The three juggernauts. You got Amazon, Microsoft, and forget who the other one is, but Google, I guess, as well. So, these are all incredibly profitable businesses for these companies. And sorry? No, I didn't. No, he got some money. No, you know how much money he's raised for Tesla now? $6 billion. I mean, how to raise money in a losing company. He's the epitome of that. But he's really a record breaker in that regard. But he's done a hell of a job, incredible job. To be fair to him, I mean, it's a tough gig, but he's you can't deny the fact that he came out with the most highly rated car of all time a couple of years ago when they did that. When it was where it got 100 points. 100 out of 100 for the first time in history of any car. I mean, that was a monumental accomplishment, for somebody getting into the car business and literally within a couple of years coming out with the highest rated car of all time. That really put Tesla on the map. That was a huge plus for him. And he's probably done the same thing with spacecraft in a way, except, if he hadn't had those couple of epic failures, or few epic failures, I mean, he'd be invincible today in the space race. But, space is a very tough game, and it's a very dangerous game. And, actually the shadow, the dark horse in the space race may be Jeff Bezos, because this Origin is a really cool spacecraft, and let's face it, he pulled off the vertical landing first. He was the first one to do it, and listen, they both perfected it, and listen, the Russians can't even do it. So kudos to them, because it's really something that came out of the Jetsons in the old. You remember the cartoons all those years ago? I mean, it's still a miracle to see it happening today. To be honest with you, it's kind of spectacular the way they can land these spacecraft the way they do. It's just staggering. It's really. Well, that's what you got to be a little bit careful of. Don't forget the Nugget took off. I mean, it's had a heck of a rise here in the last couple of days. It's gone up from 7.5 to 9 plus. So but normally when a market is getting out of the blocks, I'm telling you, these guys, the market makers are going to try and get this thing down, because the big heavyweights, the big funds want to get long now. I guess now that they've seen what's happening, and as long as the dollar, I mean, look, if the dollar breaks 100 and starts hitting 95, 99.5 sort of thing, I think you're going to see gold take off to the next level. It might be up another $10 or $20, and the Nugget will go with it. But we had the Nugget break down. It was the first to give up gains a few weeks ago, before the pullback in the gold, and the gold actually held up pretty well. As a matter of fact, the gold hasn't really pulled back that much. It's only pulled back from like 1250 down to 1200. The silver took a lot bigger hit, coming from 18 down to 16.7 or so, and actually it's taken a bit of a hit right now. So it's, I think the gold is going to pull back a little bit, but I'll try and call it for you in the next few days, but just be ready to get back on board, on this dip, because if the gold starts really heading back up towards 1260, 1270, it could go up to 1300 very quickly, and that's going to put a premium on all the gold stocks, and also it's going to be very profitable to anybody who's long the futures. So, but it's a tricky game, just because gold came in higher this morning doesn't make the silver a screaming buy at 17.5, even though it's had a terrific run in the last couple of days. It's down to 28 now, and it's losing ground as we speak. So it's a tricky, it's definitely a tricky game. And but I think we've got to look at where, how the market's going to behave here in the next few days, and we may be heading up towards a dip towards this evening. I would say this: if we get a dip here going into the close, and then we start recovering towards 9 p.m. Eastern tonight, that would probably be a go with market. I'd probably take a shot at going long, but I'd be very careful. I wouldn't, if it started going against me, I wouldn't hang around, because I don't really like the way it's correcting right now, given, it looks to me like they're going to try and walk it back. Maybe it's coming back to test the 17 again, the silver. It could happen. And it's not, listen, there's no guarantees. I mean, we've had a good pop in the last few days, but there's no guarantees that this is it. There may be some other things around the corner. Also, the grains are still a bit weak, although the beans are kind of back up above 1,000. If something happens in the next few days where the grains take off, then it sort of strengthens the case for the metals somewhat. And also if the crude starts going back over 50, I think that would be a positive for the metals. But there are a number of things. There's a lot of things that are leaning on the metals, and sometimes it's just like the market. We're down 10 points on the NASDAQ today after a pretty good rally yesterday. Does that mean, are they going to try and walk this market back a little bit in the next few days before it takes off? Very possibly. So that's the way it sort of looks to me at the moment. It's not ready to go higher just yet. We'll have to see how it plays out, but it's definitely, and you have to be, we may be in for a bigger correction, because it's sort of like having raised rates. The initial reaction was positive. Normally, when you raise rates, the market dips first and then goes up, right? That might have been a better outcome. The fact that it went up without dipping is a little bit of a, it makes me a little bit careful, of being too bullish, because maybe they're going to run it up a bit, and then they're going to pull back, and then the reset will be the time to buy. So that's the way I would kind of handle it. May 1st. They're already putting it up, and what are they going to do? Well, I think that could be, that actually could be very bullish for the nugget, because if they're gonna triple it, right? They're gonna triple it to what would be 20. So it's triple, right? You see the dust at the moment is around 32. So what they're going to do is they're going to bring the nugget back in line with the dust. Now that's a very good thing, because right now if okay, well look, that's potentially very bullish, because what about the nugget? Is the nugget 1 for 4? Okay, well that nugget, what's going to happen is that nugget going to 1 for 4, it's going to be hitting new 52-week highs, and probably what it means, if it's going to happen around May the 1st, that might be, especially if they revalue the negative S&Ps and a lot of indices, that could be the signal that a bear market is coming, or a correction is coming around that time. And it could mean that the nugget is the takeoff signal, because it's sort of going to make the previous $180 price on the nugget more achievable, and it's going to bring. Yeah, that sounds to me like, yeah, that yeah. Well, we said there's a correction coming in April, May, and I think that's going to happen. This is going to make it accelerated, and the nugget the nugget, if it goes to 4, it'll be $36 nugget, right? That's great, because what it means is if you buy 1,000 shares at $36 and it just goes up a little bit to 40, instead of buying 1,000 shares at 9 and seeing going to 950, you're going to make $4,000 from that trade on a very minor fluctuation. And the same with the dust. I mean, if you were very brave this morning and bought the dust at $29, it's at 31.5 now. You've already got $2,500 up your sleeve, So that's going to make trading in the nugget and the dust very, very profitable, as long as you get it right. Going forward when this happens, but it could be the cue for the fact that they're going to raise the nugget level, could be the cue for a very, very big move. You know, it could mean this nugget goes from 35 to $40 up to 100 very, very quickly. Because it's kind of like, imagine, I mean, we only have to go to $25. It's like going from $9 to $25 on the nugget from here, and all of a sudden you've got 100 on the new split thing, right? And take a look at LABU. I mean, you know, we've been talking about LABU since it was $25, and it just hit 55 this morning. And as I said before, this is something that could go all the way to 90 or 100. You know, if we do get a very powerful rally in the last few days of this month, going into April, I think that LABU might be part of it. Not necessarily guaranteed, because what Trump is saying about drug prices may not be all that great for the LABU, but nevertheless, a lot of that is already built into the stock. You know, it's one of the reasons why the LABU has been down so much versus the rest of the market. So, but anyhow, listen, thanks very much for the invite. We'll see how it goes tomorrow. And remember, happy St. Patrick's Day, and keep the faith. Okay, all the best. Bye.
See you tomorrow.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.